On this episode of Bermuda Boys, Jack and Mike are joined by a guest to talk about mysticism and its effect on the human experience. Ranging from the metaphysical to psychological to religious, the boys get in depth with their own personal thoughts and experiences regarding this enriching topic. Enjoy.
Well, that one was a lot shorter than I thought. All right. Hey. Yeah, that was very Seinfeldish, I guess, kind of beginning there. Yeah, welcome back to the show. We're going to have a very interesting show tonight. We have a guest on. We also have Mike, as usual. And
how's it going?
And I'm Jack, and we're the Bermuda Boys. And we have a guest, Joe.
Hello.
So, it's going to be interesting. First time having a guest. We're, 4 episodes in, and we've already got a guest. Mm-hmm. That's pretty impressive.
You guys went quick.
Yeah. We're good at quickness. Except for our episodes tend to run a little long, but you know what? Whatever. We do what we can. But I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Should be a very interesting topic that we're talking about. What are we talking about tonight, Mike?
We're talking about mysticism, and it's going to be an interesting talk.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it's going to go.
I don't know either, because I don't really know a whole lot about mysticism myself. I've never really done a whole lot of, studying up on this type of thing, aside from what I'd learned in college and whatnot. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting for me. I feel like I'm gonna learn some things here that I didn't know before. Mike's gonna school me on it, which is fine. Right, Mike?
That's your
cue. You want
cue.
me to go ahead and read it now?
You're going to read that whole thing? Like, you seriously want to read that whole thing? All right. Okay, we can do that. If that's what you want to do.
All right.
But just give us like a general rundown of the definition of mysticism, just for like the layperson such as me.
Alrighty. Yeah. Mysticism, or mystery traditions within a religion, have been a staple of religions pretty much since the dawn of time. They differ from the dogmatic approach of religion, like ceremonies and inherited positions like priests, because mysticism is entirely subjective in nature. It focuses instead on the personal experience of the adherent rather than on an objective external reality or provable scientific fact. Being experiential in nature, they focus entirely upon the feelings, thoughts, and anything else that happens in the internal or mystical realm within the experiencer.
All right. Okay. That puts it pretty good. Put a good spectrum on that. So not like focusing on an actual deity, but more of like a like a mantra type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
More of it's not necessarily like a physical belief in something, but more of a belief in things around you, I guess, from what I get out of that. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, that's fairly close. It focuses less on the things around you than more on the feelings and experiences that you're going to find inside. I guess a silly example, but one that serves here would be autumn is autumn. Leaves fall down. That's just what's happening. But how you feel in autumn, when you feel happy and warm with your cup of tea, watching the leaves, seeing the pretty colors. That feeling, that would be closer to what would describe mysticism in that situation.
Oh, okay. So, like here in the South, say a Baptist who goes to church gets into that whole uh, bringing in the Holy Spirit type of thing, and just being able to do, I don't know, instead of just going there to worship, they envelop themselves in what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
and express it in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way. That is
Mm-hmm.
much different than, say, a lot of other religions or sects of that religion.
Yeah,
Christianity, for
where
example.
where other sects will focus on, say, the Eucharist or baptism as a deed you perform, which is holy. This focuses more on the feeling you should achieve via the deed, not just the deed.
Yeah, it's an ecstatic state. If you think about the people who speak in tongues in church,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Pentecostals do that, or the snake handlers, who they
Mm-hmm.
actually believe that there is like a metaphysical connection between them and the ineffable, that
Mm-hmm.
God is making the venom in that snake's bite non-venomous in that moment through the power of their belief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always been curious about those the snake handlers. I know that I don't think there's a whole lot of them around these days. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know why. I wonder why.
I,
I wonder why that doesn't spread real fast.
I'm gonna guess that a lot of them have probably died off, but it's just a guess. But it has always fascinated me the belief that they have that God could protect them from something so deadly, and
Mm-hmm.
they actually did handle very deadly snakes and survived for the most part to the point where it was actually a viable, uh, I guess, offshoot of Christianity. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me, like the extent that people will go to worship. So it's not something I
Mm-hmm.
would do. It's definitely not my cup of tea. But I mean, I like snakes, but I don't like the venomous ones. I don't like the bitey animals in general. I mean, that's just me.
No.
Like I'm not gonna just go
I
out
don't
and
mind looking at them.
go to the zoo and be like, God is gonna protect me if I climb into the tiger cage or whatever. I don't think that's gonna happen. Although it did happen in the
Yeah.
Bible with Daniel and the lion's den, I guess, but that's different. That's the Bible. Somebody made that up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back to the whole mysticism angle, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to interpret it. I've been I've been looking into stuff like this for a long, long time. Um, it's really hard to find things that aren't just a repainted Christianity, which is really just whatever native spiritual belief of whatever area that was being converted at the time is just repainted. A lot of the stuff I looked into a lot of English, a lot of European, like 17th century stuff. John Dee was a mystic who he was the person who was credited with writing the Lesser Key of Solomon, or translating it first. Um, and at the bottom of a lot of these traditions of ritual magic, I found it's really just like self-aggrandizing, like, and it just reeks of bullshit. Whenever you find the money at the end of the trail, you're like, oh, they were doing it to make money.
Yeah.
And it's like another dead end. I found that in a lot of, at least a lot of modern as in like, post 10th century stuff.
Yeah, kind of like
Mm.
the multitude of most religions. I mean, the main reason I think that human beings created religion for any purpose was either one, to control a population, with a code of laws or honor or some sort of system that to instill a belief onto a certain type of people that if you don't do certain things in life, you're going to end up in a bad place or whatnot. Or vice versa, if you do good things, if you're a good person and you live life the way you're supposed to, then you're going to go to a good place. It's kind of like a code of laws to keep people in line. And then the whole money aspect comes in as well. You see it with especially Christianity, and Catholicism is a major one in that everything that they do is money related. I mean, you got tithing. Give us 10% of your whatever you have, and you're pretty much, I don't really understand how it works, but you're like guaranteed a way into heaven. And it's like with the Catholic Church, can kind of just make up whatever they wanted to. So say, for instance, when they created suicide being a mortal sin, because during a certain time, people were living in such hardship that suicide was the easy way out. The Catholic Church was losing money off of these people. So they're like, well, they're just killing themselves. So we make it illegal for them to kill themselves because they're going to go to hell. Then they're going to have to continue paying us. So that's my take on that. But yeah, ultimately most religions come down to control and money. So mysticism, I guess, would be a different kind of branch of that. It's not necessarily an organized religion, and you're not necessarily believing in a certain deity. I guess it could be like Taoism, I suppose, where you associate yourself more with the planet, the living order of things, to be just in harmony with nature, I guess. Which,
go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go for it.
Well, mysticism is something that's universal in I don't know, I hate to keep using the word religion, but yeah, it's something universal to all religions. You have Christian mysticism and Jewish mysticism. My stepson, his other parents are Jewish, and man, like when you start talking about Kabbalah and ancient Jewish mysticism, that is some heavy shit. Like that is, it's heavy stuff. It's stuff that you'd never, people coming from the like Western Christian mindset, it's so fucking alien. It's so like magical, which is it's the kind of thing you think of when you like D&D wizard magic kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that was a really great summary of what. And don't worry, we're gonna be. I know I'm gonna be saying religion probably a million times throughout this episode. So, but yeah, that was a pretty good description, Jack, there of religion without the mysticism, without the felt experience beneath it. It is ultimately it's to control other people and get people in line. And yeah, Joe, I mean that's a great thing. Coincidentally, I have a little quite long thing that I wrote before this episode of, well, it started off being notes and then it turned into I don't know what. But I'm going to go ahead and read what I've got, and then I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and your guys' contributions to what I wrote, as well as just the topic of mysticism in general. So here goes. Within a cultural context, certain common ground can be found between individuals, and is often recorded in esoteric and mysterious texts. The Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece included very detailed instructions on steps to be taken within this mysterious realm, as well as stories that contextualize various inner experiences. The Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt is another example of a text which details precise instructions for the mystic initiate to follow in order to rest in peace in death. These traditions often focus on secrecy in order to keep information about the mystical experiences from non-initiates, thus providing an atmosphere in which the community of mystics may continue to document their experiences and insights unimpeded by those who have not experienced the same insights. There is some speculation that ancient cave art, like Lascaux in France, was for initiation into shamanic mysticism of the time. However, there are some religions which make their entire focus the initiation into and open discussion of the mystical experiences. Buddhism, Vedantic Hinduism, and Taoism are examples of this, with the ultimate goal of enlightenment, nirvana, the breathing out of all attachments to suffering and desires, immortality, and cultivation of the Tao, a mystical force underlying all of material reality and celestial realms. These religions openly speak of the fact that a neophyte will not immediately experience these things, and only through the eightfold path of the Dharma, religious practices that could be called going through the motions, meditation or yoga, or through Wu Wei, a kind of effortless action or action without intervening in the natural flow of events, will the neophyte begin to experience the mystic insights. There are other religions where mystic experiences or mystery traditions are so deeply forced underground by persecution that little can be learned of them. Sufism in Islam is a carefully guarded wisdom tradition based around developing closeness or oneness with the transcendent through communing with the inner peace of transcendence that Allah has placed within every person. It is a tradition that is carefully handed down from mentor to student, and outside of that relationship, shared with few others. Christian mysticism, while engaged in by a few church fathers like Thomas Aquinas, was generally prohibited. In the case of the Gnostic Christians, the experience of divine inspiration or revelation threatened the authority of the Pope as the mediator between the people and Christ. So Gnostics were heavily persecuted to enforce the dogmatism of Christ through the Pope, controlling the administration of grace and experience of the divine. A common drawback of religion seems to be the creeping presence of dogmatism and legalism, restricting the flow of experience and fulfillment within its individual adherents. An example of this is the events described in 1st century Judea according to the New Testament. Similarities can be seen in the contemporary experiences of Zarathustra and Mohammed, where a fundamental experience is missing from the cultural substrate. The, quotes, missing piece, so to speak, is discovered by the mystic as he uncovers and explores his own experience and begins to document it for the guidance of others. The Buddha uncovered the need for temperance and moderation, as opposed to the extreme starvation and feats of long-term meditation that Hinduism of his time offered. Jesus found forgiveness and love within the community to be the experience missing from contemporary society, and Muhammad in submission to the transcendent higher power as a unifying principle. Often these mystic insights are not tangible things that can be examined or observed except through subjective experience. These missing pieces are thus overlooked and only seen with great difficulty by the uninitiated. This is why they are often spoke of as visible only to the quote, third eye, which cannot perceive the wisdom in insight until opened through guidance and initiation into that mystic tradition. Jesus said, "He who has ears let him hear," not because there were deaf people at his sermon, but because the mystic experience which he was trying to share in parables was not perceptible through hearing alone, but through a deeper mystic perception. Across the mystic wisdom traditions available to me to study can be observed some commonalities. Many of these commonalities are described in detail within Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces. The experiencer is called to something greater, an inner experience which he has long been unable to perceive. This call can come from dissatisfaction with his experience, as tied only to the material realm of the mundane outside world, or dissatisfaction with the hollow ceremonies and unfulfilling traditions of his own religious experience. Thus the experiencer withdraws within himself like a caterpillar into a chrysalis, where within himself transformation begins to occur. He faces forces within which either help him or present obstacles for him to overcome in his journey of transformation. After a time, and a heart-wrenching struggle, speaking from experience, there will be an experience of wholeness, in Campbell's term atonement, at one-ment, when the inner realm of subjective experience and the outer realm of observable material reality begin to coincide. It is often at this point in the mystic journey that the mystic discovers his place at the one as the one to impart his insights to those around him. Thus Zarathustra comes down from the holy mountain of seclusion and writes his book, to be sent throughout the land as a boon to aid others in his community. Some of the common forces encountered within are the feminine and masculine principles, yin and yang, of the Taoist tradition, an alter ego of sorts, the Jungian shadow or Dionysius in the ancient Greek tradition, a transformational element like the shaman or anthropomorphic beastmen of myth, representing the part of a person which becomes different over time, as opposed to any given static state of being at any given time, and a transcendent principle towards which all the shapes and forms of the transformative element is moving. The work of Hegel, called the Phenomenology of Mind, details the reflexive nature of the inner experience, turning always inward upon itself, which prevents true connection between individuals, and describes in philosophical terms the need to retreat within to engage in a dialectic, that is, a conversation between two opposing parts of one's self, to the end of finding a resolution, in Hegel's terms synthesis, as the joining of thesis and antithesis. Only when the transformative element of the experiencer has engaged with the inner forces which are torn asunder, and provides for them Campbell's atonement, can the individual then engage with others around him in a deep and meaningful way. I am going to pause there because I need a break from reading.
You need to like drink some water or something. Jeez.
I have some more, but I will read the rest of that in a minute.
That's probably a good call, and that'll give us a chance to kind of discuss what you've read to us already.
Yeah.
Especially like the Carl Jung affirmation there, which is something I know some about. He has certain archetypes, and I think aura is one of them, if I remember correctly. And I guess aura would kind of fit into mysticism in a way, because it's what surrounds you and how you present yourself to the world and how you see the world. So, yeah, the Jungian shadow, like the whole, I don't know, like I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but for example, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You have two very different type of people living in one body, and you don't know which one's going to come out. Like I said, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just how my brain is going on this route.
No, I see where you're going. The Jungian, like the shadow work they talk about, I think is very, very deeply tied with mysticism, because as I understand it, it's like your shadow is all the negative aspects of your personality, all the things you don't like about yourself or that society doesn't like or whatever, the negative things. And until you confront it and deal with it and integrate that into your personality, it comes out. I've heard Jungians talk about, that's an unintegrated piece of trauma or unintegrated piece of shadow. Like, if you've never dealt with the source of your rage, you'll have, you know, violent explosions of rage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's a really personal. I went through some shit with my family recently that was. I was really confronted with a lot of stuff about my own shadow in the last year, and it is a very mystical, transformative process dealing with that. You know, all of those unintegrated parts of your psyche. So I think
Yeah,
you're
very
dead on.
much.
Yeah, it's I mean, everybody's got for instance that Hyde aspect of their Dr. Jekyll, and a lot of people don't want to face the fact that they have that, and most people won't see it in themselves. So, but the people around you will, especially the people that are around you every day. For example,
Yes.
family, friends, coworkers, and whatnot. They will see those things in you. You don't necessarily see the evilness that you have in yourself, but these people will. And they can confront you with it, and you can either do one of two things, which is buckle down and tell them that you don't have that issue and just keep going the way that you're going, or face inward and realize that people are seeing you for you and not the other way around. So it is a very good way to psychoanalyze, and Jung saw that very well, being pretty much the father of psychoanalysis. So being able to figure out the root for the issues that cause your shadow to come out, or your hide, I guess, is something that can be very beneficial and formative to a person. And pretty much the majority of what you had described when you were reading what you had wrote, Mike, just kind of just strikes me as aging in general. The more you experience in life, you acquire more wisdom. And with
Yes.
wisdom
Wisdom is.
comes sensibility. So you start to act a different way, believe in different things. I mean, you start
Hmm.
out as a child with wonderment and thirst for all things, and then you go through your angsty teenage years where you're just angry at everything and you don't know what the world is going to bring, and then you go through your early adulthood where you're struck down every chance that you can possibly try to stand up, and then you reach a point where you just realize that you have to accept things and move on and work to just improve life in general. No matter how hard it's going to be, you just need to keep moving on. And I think that that's just aging in general. It just comes with life.
Hmm.
You either step up or you don't. And you only got two choices, I really think.
Yeah, it seems like we all get a little more Buddhist as we get older. Just
Yeah.
that, you know, this is the way it is. This too shall pass. Nothing's
Hmm.
permanent. It's all okay. Man, I got a 14-year-old, and trying to explain that to him is just brutal. It's like
Yeah.
pulling teeth because
It's
every setback is just titanic.
it's kind of one of those things that, yeah, you can't teach it. It has to be learned, uh,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. I mean, but if for some strange way you can make it through life without ever having any sort of adversity or setback or tragic event, which is virtually impossible. There's no possible way for anybody to ever do that. But if they did, I'd be curious to see what kind of person that would be, because it's not my best times of my life that define who I am. Like I look
Hmm.
back on my life and like what sticks out the most. It's always been the bad shit that's happened to me, like the tragic events. those are the ones that really stick with me. Those are the ones I think about when I'm, just thinking about my life in general. I don't think about, there was this one time I felt really great. And a lot of people don't really do that. They don't look back on good things the same way they look back on bad things. And as long as you use the bad things to improve yourself, you're learning and you're growing. And unfortunately, that's the only way to do it. Now I'm losing my voice. Holy crap. Mike, you're going to have to start reading again.
Well, I can take a turn. I've only got it looks like 3 or 4 more paragraphs.
Oh, I thought you were about to say pages.
Pages. Oh God.
That
We're
would
gonna
not
be here all
surprise me.
Oh
night.
God. Well, I'll finish this up. And then I really loved that discussion. I really appreciate your guys' input on that because some of that stuff you guys may not realize that was some helpful stuff for me to hear. So here goes. These forces which must be engaged with are described and personified by Carl Jung as archetypes and complexes. We just talked about this, but I'm going to have a little summary because I already had it written down before I knew we were going to talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
His method, it's all good. His method of engaging with them mostly took the form of imaginary conversations within himself while in deep isolation. The anima complex served as his guide, and he described her as a psychopomp-like figure, much like Beatrice served in Dante's Inferno. Anima is a feminine figure within a man and is complemented by animus, a masculine figure in the inner world of a woman. Jung's anima guided him as he met and interacted with various archetypes within his mystic inner world, like his shadow, an alter ego type figure composed of all the parts of himself that he was unaware of. Many of these archetypes proved similar to gods and heroes of myth and folklore in the mystic experiences of Jung. This similarity that mysticism bears to mythology manifests in the form of stories, as many of the forces encountered within are best understood that way. In the event that a story plays within the mystic's inner experience repeatedly, it likely signifies a force which is not being addressed or properly expressed within the cultural context of the outer world. Violent imagery of a dark figure in dreams, for example, could be said to signify all the darker tendencies within the experiencer which have been ignored or disidentified with for too long. This is often because there is a healthy form of expression of those darker tendencies, but that is tangled up or burdened by a limiting emotion such as fear or shame. An example from my experience, limited though it may be, would be aggression, a wonderful and necessary tendency for defending myself in the event of an emergency, but rejected by me because I have not been in such an emergency. One of the healthy outlets for this was in the context of a competitive game where the aggression could be expressed in a fun way. At this point, I'm beginning to realize that what I have written so far is slowly transforming from an overview of mysticism into a journal of my own experiences. So I would be remiss if I did not address why that is. I have found in my experience that there is no contemporary American mystic tradition to serve as a guide for me in my own experiences of life. I have found no mentor other than old books and translations of strange and mysterious books from the ancient world. My journey has been fraught with obstacles around the proper context in which to speak with those around me about such experiences, as I have in my subjective mystic inner world. This has been an attempt to put into words the sense I have been able to make of my experiences so far, but it is ultimately unsatisfactory unless I find a way to impart the rich inner experience to others directly, which cannot be done through mere words and strange references to ancient authors. I feel in the most profound way an absence of framework and terminology to ask for help with these obstacles I cannot transcend, and the context to offer directions to fellow travelers on paths that I have trod alone. There seems to be an obscuring mist that intervenes between myself and those around me that prevents us from seeing a way to fulfilling meaningful community experiences and collaboration in efforts towards wholeness in life. So I feel alone, like a traveler sitting by his fire in a cold and lonesome night, daydreaming about the joy of companionship. This being said, if what I say today resonates with you, know that you are not alone. Mayhap what I said can serve as a message in a bottle that reminds you that there are others in the wide world who feel the same as you. If this does not resonate with anyone out there, let my ramblings serve as those of a madman to provide for you, dear listener, a foil to your search, an antithesis to your existence, a raving lunacy to make you feel sane.
Nice, Mike.
Oh, Mikey.
So, good. Good job. Very well written. Uh, Glad you put that out there. I mean, I like your ending there as well, because it does, I guess, for my understanding of how mysticism works, it's more of a collection of what would be the human emotion, is that everybody feels like they're trotting through life alone, experiencing things in the way that they experience them. And they feel that no one else out there experiences things the same way. Yet we all do. We feel that, no, this experience that I have is completely different from someone else's. Even people living in the same household would feel that same way. People that live in a close societal construct can still believe that they're alone. And you're not. So, like, I feel that mysticism is kind of along that same sense. It's about the human element of just being alive and experiencing life. And I've always said, like, some people out there have issues that are just, they seem huge in comparison to mine. But they can still go about life and seem relatively normal, good people. But it's all relative to the beholder of those past experiences. So some people have just ridiculous amounts of tragedy in their life, but still seem to be the happiest people you'd ever meet. And it may not just be a way that they're acting, like they're not just putting on an air of just being happy. They're actually happy people because they've gone through these experiences, focused on these experiences, and grew off of them. And it then becomes relative to the person who is dealing with the experiences. So mine may pale in comparison to theirs, but they'll still feel sympathy to me in the experience that I have, even though it's nowhere near as tragic as theirs. And that's just the joy of the human relationship, I suppose, is that, I don't know. I kind of had a thought of where I was going with that, and then I lost it. But it feels to me like that's how mysticism is. It was like you can group yourself with other people that are of like mind and spirit as you, and get kind of more of a human experience out of it than say just knowing you're not alone. There are other people out there that have done and been where you have before and where you are now. So I don't know. That's my thought, I guess.
That can be really hard to do, and I agree with you. It's really necessary. It seems like we're in a society where the only socially acceptable form of spiritual fellowship is in church. And for a lot of people, that's just not, it doesn't cut it. That doesn't work. And you said you talking about us not having a modern American mystical tradition. That really resonated with me because I think, especially these days, the only way to do it is you have to synthesize what works for you, what resonates with you from all of the mystical traditions in our ancestry. 'Cause,
Mm-hmm.
um, through hold on, there we go. Just read mythology, read a shitload of it, and find the things that there's a term I came across talking to various people on the internet called unprovable personal gnosis when people were talking
Mm.
about mystic traditions and esotericism, and it's the thing that you know is true that you can't prove, but you know it's true because you know it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that
Mm-hmm.
like I can't expect anybody else. I don't expect anybody else to agree with this, but this is how I feel. This is what I know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah,
I, I
you can't force your own personal experience onto somebody else.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we all have the same when it comes down to like basic things, like to say the way that we experience nature is inherent in all human beings, pretty much. That we all experience the same thing. When I go out and touch a tree, I know how it feels to me, and it's gonna feel like that pretty much to everybody else. But when it comes to like an emotional matter, everybody perceives things differently. So I can't go out and say like, say, Mike's, this is going to sound horrible, Mike, I'm sorry. But say your wife passes away,
jeez,
and say that I was married and my wife passed away. We both have different relationships with these people, and we're both going to experience a different type of grief and loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, say you deal with it very well, and I don't. And, like, I'm just all sorts of torn up about it. Like, this, it's just, yeah, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But you just bounce back and you're like, I dealt with it and everything like that. Well, I'm going to look down on you and be like, well, he must have never loved her or something, or, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though we both experienced the same thing, I'm going to have a different perception of you because of your actions during your experiences. And I can't put
Mm-hmm.
my experience onto you and be like, this is how you're supposed to be feeling, Mike. You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to, be feeling the same as me. But that's not how we work. So,
Mm-hmm.
once again, I feel like I had so close to going to somewhere with that. This is a really deep topic. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is.
like I feel like we're 4 episodes into this show, and we're just like, it just blew past the goalposts for what we wanted here. But this is fine. I mean, this is a good topic to talk about. I like this. It's very
Yeah.
deep. It's very insightful. I'm actually like reflecting a lot just talking about this stuff on my experiences, especially over just this past year. It's been a rough year for me, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's like this is almost as good as therapy, honestly.
well, what?
Hey.
Well, I mean, what do you?
Probably better.
I mean, this is therapy.
Yeah,
The,
Yeah.
the talking cure.
right. But I could see, I mean, as a person who has studied psychology, seeing how mysticism and religion can tie into how the brain functions, and mysticism makes a whole lot more sense than religion does. I mean, some people out there find the solace in religion that some people don't find. I personally
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in any sort of organized religion, but I do believe that there is a higher power, I guess. But that's not like you were saying before, Joe. That's not something I can impart onto somebody else. What I believe is what I believe, and it may not make sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
And
it's
that's
my
really all.
it's all
That's all.
relative to
That,
my belief.
and that's really all that's important. Is if it makes sense to you and works for you, and that's your connection to whatever you want to call it, the divine, the universe. I say the ineffable a lot, like all of that we can't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically how faith works. With when it comes down to religion, it's I mean, I pull back into Christianity again because, well, they're the easiest to pick on. But yeah, they say that, well, there's proof of God everywhere, so therefore God must exist. And to me, it's like, well, you can't just say because the earth exists and we exist that God exists and give me that as 100% proof. And then they're like, well, you got to have faith. And therein lies the rub, that you have to have faith that your God exists. I don't. I don't have to have that faith. Like, for one, like all religions are fallible. So you can find some sort of disproving fact to any religion out there that shows that your religion is not a proper way to believe. But it's also, that's not my place to tell people that either, because it comes down to the whole belief thing. You believe in what you believe in, and you have your faith in what you have your faith in, and I have mine. So it's the same thing. It goes both ways. I can't tell you that your faith is ridiculous because I can't prove you wrong. You can't prove that there's a God, and I can't prove that there isn't. You know, there's a lot of people out there that get into the religion of science. It's a very, very organized religion these days. And people are just like, yeah, well, science explains everything. Well, no, it doesn't. You have to have a lot of faith in your science as well, especially when it comes down to things that are just theories and unproven. I mean, look at gravity, for example. It's still a theory. You can't prove that gravity exists. Now, you can put down mathematical equations and whatnot, and you can drop a ball, and it's going to fall towards the earth. But at the same time, you can take that ball and you can break the bounds of gravity and throw it upwards. And it will break the bonds of gravity for a short amount of time and then come back. You can't prove that gravity exists, so it's still a theory. So when it comes down to science, it's not an exact thing still. You got to have faith. And faith just comes down to everything, and everybody has their own individual faiths. And even when it comes down to, say, I'm going to go back to the Baptists again, they're all going to the same church, but they don't all live the same life. So they all go there, say, every Sunday, worship the same God, but they all do it in different ways. They all may be a collective unit when they're there, but they all have their own completely different thoughts when it comes down to how they feel in that church. So I guess you could.
That talk you gave about gravity, that reminds me of, I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of science is checking all the rocks you encounter to see that gravity works. Faith is guessing that it's going to work on all the other ones you didn't encounter.
Yeah, it pretty much sums it up. I mean, yeah, You can't. There is no absolute. I guess we're not Siths, so we can't deal in absolutes. So there's nothing out there that you can say for sure is what it is. Like, I mean, I guess the sky is blue, but say that to a person who's colorblind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end of the day, all you have is what you've experienced, that, your own experiences, which is what mysticism focuses in on. Now, I am disappointed in myself. I didn't get around to. I wanted to talk about Kabbalah and theosophy, Hermes Trismegistus and his effect on like hermeneutics and numerology and things like that. I didn't get the chance to research those, but I know a guy.
Oh
Big
man.
Joe?
Oh, I love theosophy.
You guys are you're speaking. This is gonna
Greek.
Yeah, you're speaking Greek to me. That's my bad joke for the day. But yeah, I don't understand any of that. So care to enlighten us? I'm all ears.
I'll pull up a Wikipedia definition for ease.
That'll work. I do that all the time.
Theosophy is a religion established in the United States during the late 19th century. It was founded primarily by the Russian Helena Blavatsky and draws its teachings predominantly from Blavatsky's writings. Categorized by scholars of religion as both a new religious movement and as part of the occultist stream of Western esotericism, it draws upon bolder European philosophies such as Neoplatonism and Indian-originated religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism. So, coming down to the brass tacks, theosophy, it's like the catch-all for all the really cool old occult stuff where there's ascended masters living on mountains in Tibet that are immortal and they're spreading wisdom to chosen few. And I mean, there's room in there for Atlantis and Agartha, the city like below the earth, and all of this cool shit. Theosophy, yeah, it's like the catch-all bag for all the really fun stuff in religion, all the stuff that I think's fun. I have a real deep love for theosophy, and that's where kind of my personal cosmology comes from.
Cool. Well, I like how it ties into Atlantis. We've done almost 3 episodes already, and we're on the 4th episode. And this is the 4th episode that we've done that has had Atlantis mentioned in it.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything just keeps tying back to Atlantis, and I guess that's I don't know. I guess that's why we're the Bermuda Boys.
Gee, I wonder why that is, Mike. Mike's been a big Atlantis nut for a hot minute, as long as I've known him.
Which is fine. Which is fine. Yeah, it's we've gone pretty in depth into most things that we've gone into so far on the show, and it's been very enlightening. Like we've focused on the last 2 episodes that we did on the possibility that we have a human amnesia going on with lost civilizations, and Atlantis being one of them, that it could have possibly existed, but we just don't remember it. And then we had the fire bringers, the enlightened, smart people that survived the apocalypse to be able to restart civilization. So once again, I kind of feel mysticism ties into that. It could be some sort of ancient human memory that we need to unlock that hasn't really been focused on, and it helps us as a society, as our hive-minded creatures that we are, to be able to focus not only on ourselves, but our fellow man in general, and be able to just keep plodding forward as human beings, because we can't do it alone. Nobody ever has. We're not the type of creature that lives a solitary existence. So,
No, we're so much better as a group than alone.
yeah, I mean, with human beings as alone, we just either go insane or end up off on ourselves. It's just, yeah, we're not meant to not be social creatures. Even the most antisocial or introverted person still has their close group of people that they keep around. It's just, I know this from experience. I'm one of those. As much as I hate being around people, I need to be around people. And yeah, I've never really thought about mysticism though, at all. Come to think of it, I've always kind of considered my beliefs to lean more towards Taoism, in the sense that I don't necessarily believe that there's a single God out there, but there's a certain type of power that keeps everything running, and I can kind of feel in tune with that. That's just my personal belief, but I've never really actually thought about mysticism in any aspect. I've never really actually looked into it. I always thought it was just some sort of like, it's all about like meditation and it's in yoga. It's it's people just doing these ridiculous things and drinking like boba tea and feeling better about themselves.
I don't think that I have ever associated boba tea and mysticism before.
I don't know. That's just my skewed
might
outlook
just be
on
you.
it. Yeah. But like I said, I'm a layman when it comes to any of this. So like you guys have way more knowledge on this. So like, I'm just putting more of like a psychological aspect on it instead of a religious. Seeing it as more of just like mental hurdles that you have to get over instead of like, oh, I believe in this and this is why I feel like this. No, it's yeah, like we've established, it's all of your experiences coming in to one. And like I don't know, I kind of feel better about myself now. Like,
Hell yeah.
I never really thought about mysticism before. Like I said, I had this skewed knowledge of it, this strange view on what it was, like this almost cultish type thing, like this this Aleister Crowley type guy is out there trying to get people.
It's Crowley.
Whatever.
It's Crowley.
I'm going off the Ozzy Osbourne pronunciation. Okay, that's the way I see it. Is that there's just certain just weird people out there that impart this knowledge onto other people, and they're loonies. They're out there, but having the way that you guys have explained mysticism to me, and I feel like I've done a lot of just going off the psychological end of it, it tends to make more sense. So, yeah, I appreciate talking about this. I really do.
Nice. Unfortunately, there are a lot of nutty Crowleys out there trying to get you to their way of thinking, but the way I see it is like mysticism and your connection with whatever is not something that someone else can teach you. It's not something you need to be told about. It's something that you need to like find in yourself. And that's the stuff that I find rings the most true. If it doesn't have a connection to another person, if nobody stands to gain from it, it's a little more authentic. If I can't find money at the bottom of it, it's a little more authentic.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's no ulterior motive behind what somebody is trying to teach you.
I think we all know that Crowley had some ulterior motives, taking people out to the desert and shit.
There's, what was his name? Shit, I can't remember it. The guy that worked with the Rockets, he had the same first name as me. Oh, Jack Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
Had a very interesting outlook on the whole Alistair. I don't know what word am I looking for here. He had a very interesting outlook on it. He tried to blend science and alchemy with
Ooh, alchemy we didn't talk about
more
either.
of a religious aspect and just kind of meld them together into his own just very odd type of belief until he ended up blowing himself up.
Oof. That sounds rough.
Yeah. I don't think it went quick for him either. If I remember correctly, I don't remember the story, but I think he ended up blowing himself to bits, but was still alive for like an hour or so afterwards, if I remember correctly. I don't know exactly how it worked. I think he accidentally dropped a beaker of highly volatile explosive and on accident. But go ahead.
He was into Thelema, and I don't think a lot of people that were associated with Thelema and with Crowley really had very good ends. I think most of the people in that circle kind of really got fucked up later in life.
Yeah, I could see that. I remember reading about him. It was years ago, but yeah. He had some very interesting thoughts on a lot of it, though. And I think he journaled most of it, so you can get to look into that, Mike.
That'd be a good read.
Let's see here. We've been running a little over an hour. I don't know if you want to wrap this up, Mike, or do you have anything else you want to talk about on this subject? Or?
Oh, I have so many other things I want to talk about. I just unfortunately didn't get around to researching and writing notes on all of them, but maybe we could revisit this in the future.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff that we got to revisit. So throwing this in there, definitely not a problem.
Alrighty.
Maybe we can make this a part 2 again as well. Although I don't know when the next time we would be able to talk about this is. And that unfortunately is always going to be a problem. But I don't know. Maybe we can talk about this on our next episode. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how this goes.
Either way, this has been a really good discussion, I think.
Yeah. This one has ended up being extremely serious.
It was.
And now I feel like the song that I used at the beginning, and I really just made this one. We needed the dramatic music from the episode before for this one. Well, no, I used that funky bass riff there. That was. So I have no idea what it's going to close out with. That's the great thing about, not knowing what's going to happen. So we'll see. But I appreciate both of you guys for being here and talking about this. And I appreciate all you listeners out there for sticking with us. And I'm hoping this resonates with some people out there as well. Yeah. I guess we'll wrap this one up. Mike, is there anything you want to say or plug out there in Mike land?
I think your final thoughts there were perfect. Just if this resonates with someone, I hope it helps them.
All right. I guess that's pretty poignant. Joe, how about you? Any final thoughts on this?
No, I think we covered just about everything we have to say on it. Everything that comes to mind. I am sufficient.
All right. Yep. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and call it a day on this one. I've really got nothing to add So, yeah. Thank you guys again for being here. And we'll, I'm sure we'll continue this discussion either next time or at another episode in the future, I'm sure. This will come back up again. Yeah, thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. Yeah, the bonnie boat was one as we sail into the mystic. I can now hear the sailors cry, smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. And where that foghorn blows, I will be coming home. Yeah, when the foghorn blows, I wanna hear it. I don't have to fear it, and I wanna rock your gypsy soul, just like way back in the days of old. And magnificently we will fold into the mystic. When that foghorn blows, you know I will be coming home. Yeah, when that foghorn whistle blows, I gotta hear it. I don't have to fear it, and I wanna rock your gypsy soul, just like way back in the days of old. And together we will fold into the mystic. Come on, girl. Too late to stop now.
I'm Daniel, Jack's AI intern. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bermuda Boys podcast. Your hosts tonight were Jack Sass and Mike Montross, with special guest Big Joe. This has been a snack-in production. Have a wonderful day, respect your fellow life travelers, and thank you.